All right, so we can see that we can ping our gateway, but we just can't get across. And we're not going to because we have no routing set up. Now, the first part of routing that we're going to set up is something called a default route. Now, let's explain something about default routes before we get into it. Default routes can only be configured on the end routers, on the stub routers. And I'm going to point to them. There's going to be router 1, and there's going to be router 3, because that's the only way in and out of the network. So this is the only place you can put them. Now, when we pinged, we got an unreachable. Let's see when we configure a default static route on router 1, what happens. So let's go there. All right, so now we are in router 1. We're in privilege mode, so we need to go to config T to take us to global configuration. And this is where we actually create the default route. So we're going to say IP route 0.0.0.0 space 0.0.0.0 space exit interface S00/0. Enter. What this does, the zeros mean match exactly. And what the first set of zeros means is destination network, second set, destination mask, exit interface. That's what that means. So when you configure this default static route, if there is no entry in the routing table for the destination network, it will use this gateway of last resort to send out that packet. Instead of dropping it, it will send it over to the next router. Let's go ahead and copy this. Exit once, takes you to privilege mode. Copy, run, start, enter, enter. Let's take a look at our routing table. Show IP route. Enter. Now you can see that there is an S with an asterisk, and this whole thing right here is your default route. And you can see when you do the show IP route command that you have a gateway of last resort set. So it will not drop the packet anymore, even though there is no entry for the 2.0 network. It will go ahead and send it forward. So let's test this out from our PC1. Before we got an unreachable, let's see what we get this time. Let's take all this gibberish out of the command prompt, and we're going to ping 192.168.2.1. That's the IP address of the actual PC. And let's see what happens. It takes a little bit of time. Remember, IP version 4 uses ARP to discover. We usually do get one request timeout no matter what. But when it's taking long like this, that means, hey, something's going on. So we're getting request timeouts now. So what does that mean from a troubleshooting point? It means that the packet actually got to the destination. It just didn't know how to get back. And of course, it's not going to know how to get back. Let me close these screens in front of you, or minimize this one. This router right here, this second router, okay, that second router right there, it does not know about network 1. Let's click in router 2, and let's take a look at its routing table. Enable, config T. Oh, let me exit, do it from there. So used to doing it from do. It's a bad thing to do. Show IP route. You see that routers only know who they're connected to directly. If you see this right here, these C's, that's what these C's means. If you don't know what they mean, you can look up here where it says codes, and you can see that it says C means connected. So it does not know, it does not understand where it's coming from. It has no idea. Well, in router 2, you cannot configure a default route. You will configure actual static routing, which will be next. So let's go ahead and finish with the default routes, and we'll go ahead and do that on router 3. So let's move this table over just so we can work with. We're going to go enable, config T, and then we're going to do IP route 0.0.0.0, 0.0.0.0. All right, the exit interface will be S0/0/1, and we're going to hit enter. We're going to exit. I exited one too many times. Enable. And we're going to do a copy, run, start. And then hit enter again to accept that default file name. And then we're going to do a show IP route. And you can see that the gateway of last resort is also set right up here. Gateway of last resort is set, and you can see the default static route. It is on here. But we are still not going to be able to ping across because the middle router has no idea that these networks exist, right? This middle router only knows about the 10.1.14, 10.1.18, and 10.2.0. So the next thing that we need to do is static routes. That way we can go ahead and get full connectivity across the network.